Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and staying safe and are safe. Very active last 24 hours. Yesterday certainly panned out. You never can say as worse as it possibly could, but it was pretty bad. It certainly verified as far as the category that the Storm Prediction Center issued, which was too high risk and a massive moderate risk. And I'm hearing all kinds of things this morning. Woke up at about 4 a.m. and heard about the roof of a concert that collapsed in Illinois, which, I just feel like that should have been canceled. But, it's done now. I'm not sure if there's any fatalities from that. We heard about what happened in Little Rock, Arkansas, a couple other small towns in eastern Arkansas. I was up at 4, like I said, and around 4:15, 4:20, there was a tornado on the ground at the southern end, or just west of the Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee, just north of Huntsville, right over the Tennessee-Alabama line. It was confirmed. So very active times. It continues to be pretty active out there right now, but certainly not as active as it's been over the last 12 to 18 hours. But I hope you guys are faring well out there. And I've seen some people, in the comments saying that it's affected them or their towns directly. So prayers go out to everybody. I prayed pretty hard yesterday, multiple times, for everybody affected. And I guess as far as the numerous fatalities, that will emerge probably over the next probably 12, 18 hours. So we'll see what that is, but certainly hoping for the best case scenario with that. But with that being said, we got more weather to talk about. It just keeps rolling. It doesn't stop for anybody. And with that being said, we have 2 slight risks to mention today, which is a level 2 out of 5, one for the southeast, one for the northeast. And I want to remind you guys, I'm making this as of 6:49 Eastern time. There's a chance that certain things could get upgraded. The next update that could potentially upgrade will be in about a few hours. So I'll talk about what I mean by that and who I think might get upgrade to an enhanced risk today. But we're also going to touch on at the very end of the video what's going to happen here in the next couple days. We have a massive blizzard in April that's going to slam areas in the northern plains, and another severe weather event expected for some of the same areas. So let's go on and get off the intro and start talking a little weather. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, you guys know the deal. Please put it in the comments below. Thank y'all for the support over the last couple days. And thank you to any new subscribers who've subscribed to the channel. Welcome. It's a family type atmosphere. We don't have a massive channel here, but we certainly treat each other with respect, look out for one another, pray for one another, and we're certainly a family type atmosphere here. But so that is our system right here. This huge spin. This brought a lot of snow for areas of Minnesota. It's snowing in areas of Iowa that had tornadoes yesterday. And we kind of expected that to happen, but it's just unreal. In under a 24-hour period, this has happened. It's still snowing pretty heavily in areas of the UP of Michigan, but this will let up throughout the next several hours. We have storms ongoing in the deep south, the southern Appalachian Mountains, moving into that area now, moving into some higher elevations, and we'll see if these line of storms right here will kind of re-emerge down here in this area a little bit later today. Okay, same thing with down here. You see this kind of clearing going on right here. All right, so that'll open the door for another area of convection that will probably fire up somewhere in here, and it will sweep across the northeast a little bit later today, affecting pretty much this entire area potentially. Okay, so we'll talk about all that. We'll get detailed. We'll section off each portion of the country that could get affected by this, and we'll try to figure this out for you folks. But you see this little span right here? This is a little short wave. This will kind of continue to get lost in the flow, and this will bring a little bit of a severe weather potential in Texas and Oklahoma tomorrow. And then our big storm is way out over here, and this will eventually dig down and go kind of like this, something like that. And this will bring a lot of severe weather for this portion of the country right into here. So there's a lot to talk about. It's going to continue to be active, guys. Nothing's slowing down, unfortunately. Trust me, I wish it would. But the weather just keeps rolling. You know, a ton of wind advisories in this tan color. Very windy day across a lot of the country. Blizzard warnings continue. They got, you know, you went from a winter storm warning to a blizzard warning in Minneapolis. It's crazy. You got blizzard warnings on the morning of April 1st. But all these will get dropped very quickly today as snow is tapering off. You got tornado watches down here that continue. You got high wind warnings in this mustard color right in here. And, you know, some of these might get expanded into the northeast a little bit later today. A lot going on. Not as active as yesterday. Nothing's going to compare to yesterday. But, man, we just continue to have some pretty active times over the next 24 hours. A severe weather threat will zone into each area, but a huge slight risk. For the northeast, this does include areas of the Delmarva and Mid-Atlantic. Moderate risk, excuse me, that's level 1 out of 5. Slight is level 2 out of 5. Moderate risk, which, you know, does include Raleigh, down to Columbia, Virginia Beach, Wilmington, Charleston, and Savannah, like southern sections of Georgia have a slight risk. All right, so if there's any area that's going to get upgraded today, it's going to be this. I think you might get an enhanced risk, maybe somewhere up here that will be wind-driven. There's going to be a pretty nasty line of storms that sweeps through the northeast and then maybe even southern New England, and then all the way down into Long Island, New York City, New Jersey. Tornado threat, pretty, you know, you got a 5% risk of a tornado, and things like to produce for whatever reason in New Jersey and southeast Pennsylvania. So please be aware of this. I'm going to zone into this. In fact, you know, let's just go on and jump to this. This is the slight risk. This includes Erie. This includes Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Rochester, Binghamton, State College, the whole entire southern tier of New York, Albany, and New York City, Newark. It includes Scranton, Philadelphia, you know, Harrisburg. It includes a good chunk of the southern New England, good chunk of Mass. You only are under the marginal risk in Boston, but you know this might expand a little bit further east. Most of Long Island, okay, so the entire state of Delaware. So you look at the tornado risk today. The green is a 2% risk of a tornado. The brown is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location. This includes some extremely high populated areas in New Jersey and southeast Pennsylvania and all of Delaware and a small section of Maryland. Okay, really, we're going to jump over hail. There's going to be some hail today, but the wind threat is what I think could get upgraded to a 30% risk somewhere in here, but it might not. It might not, guys. But if I was to call my shot here with this, I would say that somewhere gets upgraded to a 30% chance, maybe an hour or two after I drop this video. So just be aware of that. If it's going to happen to be the southern tier of New York, this might expand into maybe even Western Mass and Connecticut, where I think some daytime heating will build all the way up into southern New England and even New York City. I mean, what I'm about to show you is a pretty potent line of storms that moves through New York City later today. Slight risk down here extends all the way into southeast Alabama, all the way into the low country of South Carolina, includes all of southern Georgia. You have a 2% risk of a tornado down here in the dark green. I could see this. Now this won't change it from a slight to an enhanced, but I could see the tornado risk, a small area of brown, upgrading from a 2 to a 5% risk somewhere down into here. We'll see what happens, but right now 2% risk, and the winds, you do have a 15% chance of damaging winds pushing 50 knots or higher in this yellow area. So we'll certainly watch for that and watch what can happen. So let's break it all down. Let's talk about the southeast in general, and we'll go through this very quick. But let's go on and talk about kind of what is going on right now, way up in here in Duluth, right here. Let's go to Atlanta, see what's going on. And sure enough, you have severe thunderstorm warnings right now. You still got a tornado warning that's probably expired. Will definitely expire by the time you folks watch this, or another tornado warning will get issued. But if you're in Atlanta, these storms are knocking on your doorstep just before 7 a.m. These storms are packing a punch. Definitely packing a punch. Damaging winds. This is the same energy from yesterday. Okay, so don't let this catch you off guard. This will eventually make its way into Greenville, Spartanburg area, and we'll see if some reinitiation of some storms fires up in this area, in which it will. And you're going to have some big time daytime heating in this area right in here. Temperatures will rise into the 80s more than likely. And I'll extend this all the way down to here too. But we'll see what develops. But this is what's going on right now. Some powerful storms already this morning. You're probably about to have severe thunderstorm warnings issued in Atlanta. But these storms will continue. Let's get this in motion again. These storms will continue to kind of trail south in Alabama. They will try to start to refire back up, maybe get a little bit more discreet. We're at about 10, 11 a.m. at this point. We start to get closer to Columbus. Maybe some nasty weather gets down there. And then with some big-time daytime heating down here along the Gulf coastline, some storms could fire up from New Orleans all the way to Mobile, Alabama, and then all the way into the western, panhandle of Florida. And I could see these producing a small chance for a tornado down here. Plenty of thermodynamics down here, plenty of moisture at the surface, and what you're really lacking is just a lot of winds aloft. But please watch out, if you're vacationing down here in the panhandle of Florida, where it's certainly getting to that time of the year where it's warming up enough for beach weather. Please take note of storms that, will drift from the north into the early, late afternoon hours and into the evening hours. We'll switch to my neck of the woods, okay? Some storms will enter. We already know they're entering North Georgia right now. These will cross the southern Appalachian Mountains, and I'll try to cover like 4 states at once here. But storms will be weaker, I would say, up here, but they will be accompanied by some gusty winds up here in Virginia. This is around 9 a.m. here in the next couple hours. Storms will begin to enter more central VA. They will begin to enter the Piedmont Triad of North Carolina. We'll see how intense they remain as they enter upstate South Carolina, northeast Georgia. But, 9, 10, 11 a.m., I would not be surprised if we have some nasty weather. And for my folks down here in the Midlands of South Carolina, the Sandhills of North Carolina, you're going to wake up just like last Saturday morning. It's going to be a beautiful spring morning, very breezy, maybe a peak of sunshine. But just know that, as we're getting into about noontime, some storms are possible. And there is that 2% risk of a tornado once you enter the eastern Carolina. So here are these storms. They don't look that bad. But what I worry for is how much do they refire once you start to get into the eastern Midlands, the PD, the Sandhills, the eastern areas of North Carolina. I mean, even down here in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, you got to watch out for northeast North Carolina. You need to watch out for any kind of storm development. And these will try to refire back up, probably well east of Fayetteville. And as we're getting to 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're enjoying a nice beach day along the Carolina coastline and Georgia coastline. Just, definitely be aware of what's happening just to your west. These storms could mess some plans up. But I can tell you, the latest HRRR model doesn't look that bad. It looks like these storms kind of fizzle out. But wherever there is storms, they could be intense. So I would say they roll through central Georgia, Midlands of South Carolina, late morning, lunchtime, and then they clear out. And the sun will probably try to come out by the time we're into the late evening hours, late afternoon hours, really. We go up here. Well, we take a look at the significant tornado parameter, and it will try to spike into the PD, into the eastern areas of South Carolina, and look at, southeast Virginia. It'll try to rise, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a tornado. That just means the ingredients are kind of there, but you're still lacking other ingredients. The significant tornado parameter doesn't account for all ingredients. I mean, it counts for certain things, but, it doesn't really account much for forcing as far as what provides the mechanism for storm development. So it's saying that a lot of ingredients for tornadoes are there, but if you're lacking forcing for thunderstorms, then you're not going to get any initiation, which is good. But we'll see what happens with that. But I can tell you it's going to be very gusty in these areas. The winds really pick up a little bit later today. And here we go. I mean, you're starting to get into mid-morning. You got wind gusts already, maybe 30, 35, maybe at times 40 miles per hour. But the real push of windy weather, my dad's in Boone right now. I told him that it's going to get extremely windy, by the time we get into this afternoon. But I mean, the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, especially northeast Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, 50, 60, maybe even at times 70 mile per hour wind gusts today. Please keep your cars away from any trees, if at all possible, because this is going to be an intense windstorm. It doesn't just develop over the mountains, but the upstate of South Carolina. North Carolina, today's going to be quite windy. And then, the winds are going to even intensify in these higher elevations. They've just become less widespread. But, check it out tonight. You got winds pushing hurricane force and higher in these higher peaks, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 feet up in the air. Very, very strong winds. So if you're in the mountains, if you're higher up, please be aware of this later this afternoon, this evening, especially this evening. Okay, big time wind events. Big time wind event for you folks. My folks in the mid-Atlantic, and your eyes are going to go to this. I'm gonna move a little bit further north into deeper areas in the Northeast. So just keep that in mind. I'm not going to leave you guys out. You're dealing with some morning rain, some gusty winds, and you will continue to do so into the late morning hours. This will clear out, but then the atmosphere will try to recover this afternoon. We're getting into about 3 p.m. You already see storms kind of blasting through areas of Pennsylvania, and there's a chance, even though you have a slight risk for severe weather in Pittsburgh, you might not get anything because this line is just starting to develop, but we'll certainly watch. Immediately behind this line, much cooler air. In fact, rain tries to mix with snow in northeast Ohio later this afternoon. We'll see if that actually happens, but we continue this and watch as these storms develop. Bang! This is around 7 p.m., give or take an hour. Some intense storms develop right over far extreme eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, the southern sections right here down the southern valleys of New York State. And then you go to the next frame, and this looks like an intense line of storms that stretches from the Delmarva around 8 p.m. all the way through the entire state of New Jersey. New York City, we could get some epic cloud shots today in New York City. We might have like a shelf cloud. And along this line, you could have spin-ups. There is going to be enough kinematics because you're much closer to the low pressure for some tornadoes mixed in this line of storms. Please do not say, whatever, it's just a slight risk. It's just a little risk of severe storms. Take this serious. It's a Saturday night. People are going to be out and about. And look, 2 hours before the storms come, there's not really much going on. And then bang, these things develop. And we can go on and talk about Connecticut. If there's not a tornado threat, this is going to be a damaging wind threat. And then I think it weakens as it, gets into the cooler waters of the mid-Atlantic, of the Atlantic, and some more just stable air. But Long Island, intense storms into the late evening hours, okay? And then they blast through, and then the severe weather threat is done. But please take this serious today, guys. Take this serious. You are going to have a severe weather threat. In fact, we'll look at the updraft helicity swaths. And they really intensify right around the New York City area, northern central New Jersey, and then just north of New York City. Look at these updraft swaths. I think that we're going to have a risk of tornadoes in and around the New Jersey area today. And you can't, discount Delaware. But I think we're going to have a threat today, guys. So please take this serious. I think there could be an enhanced risk issued. And it could be, you could get a 10% risk of a tornado. Let's hope not. But regardless, we got to watch this area right in here today. We do. And then the winds associated with these storms, guys, that's its own deal. It's already kind of windy this morning, but look as this line of storms approaches. And look at West Virginia. This is as of 2 p.m. Next several hours, winds gusting 50 to 60 miles per hour. And embedded in this line of storms, okay, beginning to develop in western Pennsylvania, 50, 60, at times 70 mile per hour winds. This sweeps through the entire state of Pennsylvania and the southern tier of New York. And associated with this line, you could have 50, 60, maybe 70 mile per hour wind gusts blasting through some highly populated areas in this region right here. 6, 7, 8 p.m. And then it just remains very windy, especially in these higher hills and higher peaks. So pretty crazy stuff today, guys. That's uptrended. I think it'll continue to uptrend all the way up into this morning. A lot of morning rain this morning here in the interior Northeast, New York State, Vermont. This will clear rapidly. We get into this afternoon. You're probably going to get some peaks of sunshine. Here comes these storms. I think they enter western New York State between 2 to 3 p.m. They blast through Buffalo, strong winds. Not as much of a tornado threat to worry about in this region. But these storms could be quite intense. They move over the Finger Lakes from 4 to 5 p.m. They blast through State College, I would say. Northern PA probably anywhere from 2 to 4 p.m. They start to slam Binghamton, I would say anywhere from 4 to 6 p.m. It's hard to always gauge these fast-moving storms. But then, they start to intensify where the daytime heating begins to build. And like I said, we've already mentioned this, but these storms could pack a punch in places like Albany, the valleys of New York State, the mountains, the Adirondacks, the Poconos of Pennsylvania, just a lot of people. They could affect a lot of mountains and regions, the Catskills. I mean, you're going to have some damaging winds that moves through this area potentially. And then the ingredients begin to build in this region. But we'll talk about you folks in southern New England here in a second. But, look at the winds associated with this. Quite intense. Man, look at this. Look, especially the southern end. You got some intense winds blasting through Pennsylvania, Binghamton. These, you could have a period of 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts. And this moves through. This could be quite intense, guys. So please be aware of this. Southern New England's a tricky area. How much does the atmosphere destabilize? How much does the atmosphere really get juiced up? But here's these line of storms around 7 p.m. 8 p.m. they begin to enter southern Vermont, western Mass, Connecticut. And in Connecticut, they could be quite intense today. And even western Mass too. But I really think they get really intense late afternoon, evening time, around dinner time, and then they begin to lose their punch by the time they enter kind of central to eastern Connecticut, and that's why the slight risk dramatically cuts off to a marginal risk. But by the time you're around 9 to 11 p.m., some nasty weather begins to enter Rhode Island, eastern Mass, some strong winds associated with this, and it could be quite intense for these areas. And you look at the winds associated with this, I don't think the tornado threat will be as big, but it could rise. It just depends on how much surface heating you get into this area today and how much does the dew points rise in this area. Tons of kinematics up here, but how much does the atmosphere destabilize thermodynamic wise? But, embedded in some of these storms, 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds. Look at Long Island down here, Connecticut, 40 to 50, 60, maybe at times 60 miles per hour winds, embedded in some of these stronger cells. Okay, so please take this serious today. It's a big deal. It's not being talked about quite as much because we're still reeling for what happened yesterday, but it needs to be certainly acknowledged. South Central U.S. today, you guys are getting a break. Nothing going on, nothing to speak on, literally nothing to talk about. So enjoy it. Could be some active weather tomorrow with a marginal risk in place. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. North Central U.S., the lingering effects of the snow will drift out of Wisconsin by lunchtime. A little bit of snow will make its way into Michigan, but northern Michigan, but not a lot. And then the atmosphere will chill out for at least 12 hours. And then already you got a little bit of freezing rain that might develop North Dakota and then central Minnesota. Might even get a little bit of freezing rain in Minneapolis into tomorrow. And then we're getting into tomorrow's forecast at that point. Temperatures today, we'll see how much we warm all the way up to New York City, southern New England. If we get into the 70s, that's not good. But I can tell you ahead of this line of storms along the eastern, southeast, the extreme southeast, you're going to warm well into the 80s. But even areas where all the weather's rolled through, you're still going to warm into the 70s and low 80s today. It's just that time of the year where the cold fronts don't really fully clear the area. They still do sometimes. But certainly warm day in the southeast, south central U.S., very nice day. But the Ohio Valley, after getting nasty weather in Midwest yesterday, 40s, maybe even some 30s for high, some 50s when you get more so in Missouri, and then very cold air remains in the upper Midwest, Great Lakes region. Next storm's coming. We're not going to get very detailed on this, but what I can tell you is as we're getting into Sunday evening, snow already is breaking out across Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and then this begins to turn to a monster winter storm by the time we get into Tuesday morning. A lot of heavy snow breaks out even over western Nebraska, but it really cranks up over South Dakota. We're getting into Tuesday midday. This is extremely heavy snow We got surface low berth here, and not just a berth, but I mean it's strengthening. It's a 986 millibar low pressure. It is a powerful low pressure. This will bring a lot of nasty weather for all these areas that we just circled in the beginning of the video, and an intense early April blizzard. This will be blizzard conditions, much more widespread than what we just saw yesterday, and a longer duration event. And this is going to bring a ton of heavy snow from areas of the northern plains all the way into areas of northern Minnesota. Maybe even it could potentially bring a nasty winter storm for northern Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan. Winter is not done up here. It's just not. But this will be a nasty mix of precipitation. We got to figure out all those details. But a massive blizzard for the northern plains, and then you have the severe weather from this too. You have an enhanced risk already at day 4, level 3 out of 5, 30% risk to see severe weather already 4 days out. I mean, it was already 5, I think 6 days out. You already had an enhanced risk. This includes, you might as well say, Chicago all the way to the Ozarks of Arkansas, all the way into southern Iowa, all the way back almost to western Kentucky. This is a big deal, guys. Another severe weather event is likely. So going back to the snow, they're already saying, the National Weather Service, a blizzard is expected from the 3rd to the 5th of April. All right. Probabilities to see 12 inches of snow. I mean, that's 70 to 80, 90% chances to see a foot of snow. And to go to the blend of all models, guys, this is starting off, Sunday in the middle of the night, but then look at this. We'll take it all the way. This is through Thursday morning of next week. Look at these snowfall amounts. 2 feet of snow is possible in certain areas. Widespread 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow expected from Colorado, northwest Nebraska. I would say 60, 70% of South Dakota, and about the same for North Dakota. And this is also getting into the north central U.S. Look at all this snow for northern Minnesota. Pretty wild stuff, guys. It really is. We'll get a little bit more detail on this in the coming days, but even Minneapolis could see snow from this. But man, this is a massive late season snow for you folks in the northern U.S. Active times ahead. God bless all y'all. I'll be with y'all this evening, and we'll continue to get very detailed on what's to come. God bless all y'all.